First of all, it is illogical to blame white people as a people for the state of the world. But I've noticed over the years on Facebook, tens of thousands of people, and not just on Facebook, but on the videos they post and comments on YouTube, that propagate despicable falsehoods, counterintuitive, and just flat out false ideas. Eugenics is the main philosophy of America, and there is an alliance between the rich eugenicists and various groups of people. You have to consider that some black people used to own slaves, some free blacks owned slaves, and some blacks were brought into Masonic societies and other groups by whites on the understanding that they and their families would have it easier if they helped the white man oppress other blacks. And it goes deeper than your typical idea of what a house nigga is. So what we see going on here is the evolution of eugenics, and they are using mind control and various institutions and entities to help them achieve their unscrupulous goals. In America, it is more than just my family when you see that Africans are extremely educated, and perhaps they are still the most educated group of people in America, Africans from Africa. A lot of them start off working as security guards and things like this while they go to school, and later on they become PhDs, doctors, lawyers, engineers, scientists. And so it is impossible to look at this scientifically and come to the conclusion that black people are inferior, when many come here speaking English as a second, third, fourth, and fifth language even, and they outperform non-blacks in a country that is extremely harsh on black people and slows them down, hinders their progress, sabotages them on record every step of the way. Now, black people are not sabotaged to the point where it is hopeless, but they are sabotaged to the point where it is pretty much impossible to be successful, to have your own opinion and to express it publicly. This is a very dramatic proof of racism in America. It's more than just institutional, it is pervasive, it is endemic, and it is systematic. In many African cultures, we are very loving. We treat strangers more than fairly. We make sure they eat and drink before we do, in many cases. When I say we, I'm actually African American. My dad is from Nigeria, and he's a brain surgeon. My uncle, who passed away, graduated top of his class at UC Berkeley Law. My other uncle is also a doctor, and pretty much every African on the African side of my family is successful and brilliant. And they come from one of the most war-torn and impoverished nations on the planet, Nigeria. If you look at the history of Nigerian wars, genocides, the Nigerian Civil War, Boko Haram, and on and on and on, you can see that these people are extremely poor, and there's a lot of violence that takes place, and there's not much opportunities. But when there's a level playing field, we outperform other races. And I do not believe that this has something to do with genetics per se. I think it's more cultural. We have very strong faith-based cultures, and it gives us the upper hand in many ways because we come from an environment, my people come from an environment where you have to really be effective to succeed. So when they make it to America, it's kind of like a natural screening system in the most populated nation in Africa that brings the wisest and the best of humanity to America. And this is my view. This is my opinion at this point. But it is not my opinion when I come to when I talk about disinformation operations and eugenics and the eugenic state, the pharmaceutical state, and how there are many races and different groups that help propagate despicable and unforgivable lies. They spread them, And we leave the dissemination of information and propaganda operations in the hands of racists more often than not. First and foremost, they are greedy. If they could become rich by preaching that another race was superior, almost all of them would do it. So they're more greedy and petty and cowardly than they are racist. Racism is just a convenient way for them to achieve their greedy aspirations. So when you look at the Nuremberg Code, the history of mind control and psychological operations, and the evolution of it, when you look at how the Supreme Court set a precedent that they're going to give people a slap on the wrist for being caught raping, drugging, and doing mind control and unspeakable things to people in the name of national security and advancing the military-industrial complex, it is impossible not to connect that with the obvious fact that these people are continuing. It's the same thing we see with these police shootings. They set a precedent that you can say, well, I was in fear for my life, and other officers feel pressured to stick up for them. Not all of them are racist. Some of them are just scared of what will happen if they don't take the other cop's side in court. You can see that these precedents are part of racism in America, and that is why they are there's heated debates over how these things should play out. I'll tell you the truth. We need to come together in the name of God. The biggest problem America has is a lack of faith in the one true God. And that is my opinion, and I hesitate to say it's an opinion. But what is not an opinion is that it is related to what you might call scientifically the biggest problem America has, which is a lack of morality. We need more morality. We need to realize the consequences of our actions when it comes to treating people unfairly and how it affects the world at large. Too many people are greedy so they can have it a little bit easier and their bloodlines can last a little bit longer, but as time goes on, they will be screened out as well. Just because somebody is the child of a brilliant person doesn't mean that they are brilliant. Just because someone is the child of a successful person doesn't mean that they are brilliant. One's ability to cheat and get ahead does not mean that they are smarter. It means that they lack morality. And I would argue that the smartest of us put morality and virtue over the pursuit of wealth, as Socrates has said. Thank you.